Hello, I'm Corey and today is day 13 of the 100-day project in my version, which is 6 by 6 and 6. And the concept here is to use 6 by 6 paper pads to do a variety of projects. Today's project is what I'm calling a pocket tag. What did I decide to call it? Well, heck, I called it something and I misplaced my directions. Oh, here we go, they're underneath. A pocket tag clip. Sorry about that. Pocket tag clip. And the reason is it's a tag with a pocket and then I've got a paper clip on it. And the reason for the paper clip is so that if you choose to, you can put it in your planners, your junk journals, your scrapbook albums, whatever. And you can clip it in just like so. So hence the name. This particular sample doesn't have it because of the way I'm going to use it, but I am going to show you today how you put the paper clip on the back to make this a tag clip. If you watched day 12, you saw that we made a 6 by 6 pocket page, and I said that this one used 4 sheets of paper, and that we were going to use the next couple days, we were going to use the scraps from these sheets to make the next couple days this project. So we're using the scraps from these. And so I've grabbed the scraps, and you can see here the scraps from this are, so the back is one of the 4 sheets. And then these two together are the second of the 4 sheets. And then there is the third of the 4 sheets. I used this one obviously in yesterday's project. There's the third. And then here's the fourth. So there's the 4 sheets that are left over from yesterday. And one of the benefits of this kind of a thing is it's great for memorabilia. You can use it for pictures and other things as well, of course, or journaling spots. But it's a great way to use some of that memorabilia and to tuck it into your however you store it, if it's whether it's a scrapbook or a junk journal or a planner or however you store it. So we are going to use, today's is going to use just 2 sheets. And this particular one that I did as a sample, you can see I used this piece and this piece. And so to mix it up a little bit, I will use these 2 pieces. Okay, and that's all we're going to need today for these 2 pieces. And you will need, if you want to make a back with a journaling spot, you will need a scrap of cardstock that measures this remaining 2.5 piece that's left over from yesterday, so about 2.5 inches and 6 inches. And this one's a little long, but I grabbed whatever scrap I had. So the items you need to make this project are a scoreboard. You'll need a scoreboard, or if you look at day 1, I showed you how you can use some chipboard instead of a scoreboard. You'll need a bone folder. If you're going to do the journaling lines, you'll need, if you have a stamp, awesome, use that. But if you don't, you can still get the same effect using a roller. You will need some wet glue, ink if you're going to ink. Now, I didn't take a divot or make a slot on either of these, but because some people might be starting right here, I'm going to go ahead and grab a circle punch and make a slot or a divot on the top of this pocket, the pocket we're making today, just to show you. You will need a paper clip, and the vinyl coated paper clips don't seem to stick or work as well, so I just like the solid standard paper clip. But there's all kinds of paper clips. I mean, there's paper clips. You can use gold, or you can use these little silver ones with the little notches to help it hold a little bit tighter. You can use bigger ones or smaller ones, or just whatever paper clip you've got. You will need a piece of double-sided tape, and you just need this to hold it down in the back, so it doesn't even matter what kind you use, but you'll need a piece of double-sided tape. And then I used this, and this can be any gift card, but I created 4 different sized corners for my tags, so I can make a tag no matter where I am or no matter what I'm using, whenever I want. You certainly can measure and cut, but you don't have to use this, but this sits on my desk because it's so handy, so I'm going to use that today. All right. Step number 1 is to score your card. And if I want a taller pocket like the 2 samples I had, this one measures, the leftover piece is 3 inches, which is what? I didn't even write it down. Sorry, 3 inches is approximately 7.6 centimeters. So 3 inches by 3.5 inches. And I made the 2 samples with a taller pocket, so those are the measurements I have. But if you wanted to, you could make the pocket a little bit shorter and just score a little bit more on there. I'm just going to go with the dimensions that I've already got for you. All right, so I'm going to score this longer, the shorter piece of the 2 pieces. I'm going to score this one at 1/4 inch, which is approximately 6 millimeters or 0.6 centimeters. And then again at 2 3/4, which is approximately 7 centimeters. And then I'm going to turn it and score again at at the 1/4 inch or the 3 1/4 inch. Either way is fine. But you want about 1/4 inch on there. Now, I usually prefer to have a little bit more fold because I feel like I get a better line. I usually like to go with 3/8 inch, but this is what I had, so this is what I'm using. And then I'm going to come in and take off this bottom corner, and I'm going to touch it just to the tip of where I scored and folded. And I'm going to do this over here. Same thing. Sometimes it's easier to see if you fold it first, but do whichever way works for you. Try it. Try it on some scrap paper. Because you want that corner taken off so that when you crease it and fold it like this, you get nice tight corners. And then once I'm sure, yeah, see I've got 4 corners that are pretty good, or I'm sorry, 2 corners that are pretty good. Then I'm going to come in with my bone folder and fold it and make sure it's got a nice tight crease. And then you certainly don't have to because it's going to be in the back, but I just like the way it glues and looks a little better if I come in and take off these top tabs too. Like I said, you don't have to. It just makes it a little less bulky and it folds a little bit nicer. And the next step is you're going to check your fit because of the folds. You don't want to see, oh look, mine, I don't know if you can see there, but see how it buckles a little bit? So I'm going to use my paper trimmer and trim off just a smidge of this. And I mean just like the littlest sliver. And I'm going to make sure it's straight though, because I don't want it crooked. And I'm just going to, I can't even measure that. That's just a little bit of a sliver. And I did that because the measurements went with the fold. It brings it in a little bit. And then I'll double check and, oh, look, it still buckles a little bit. So I'll go back and I'll take off a little bit more. But just, again, just the tiniest little bit. I don't want to make it too small. Okay. And then I'm going to come in and, yeah, that fits good. All right. When I do this, oh, I said I was going to take a divot. So here is where I'm going to take a divot. This is my pocket, a notch or divot, whichever you want to call it. And I'm going to roughly center it, and then I am going to take out that piece. Now, I ink here, and most of the time I use a dry ink pad, but I'm going to ink it here because it's so much easier to ink it before I glue it down. So I'm going to glue it, and then I'm going to take my tab, and I'm going to take my pocket and lay my pocket down. And then I'm going to take the back of my pocket and lay it here. And what I do is I fold the bottom first. I make sure the whole thing fits. But I fold the bottom first because I want to make sure that the bottom of my back piece lines up with the bottom of my pocket. And the beauty of wet glue over dry glue is that, dry line glue, is that you have a little bit of wiggle room. So I'm just going to fold that up and hold it in place for a moment. Remember, this is the back of my tag. And then I'm going to do the same thing with both sides. And so that when I look in the front, I've got a nice tag pocket, or at least the start of a nice tag pocket. Okay, so wet glue along the sides, and you don't need a lot. But the beauty of this particular glue is it dries clear. So if some of it does seep out, you can just use a rubber cement square and pick up any extra. All right, so it's the front of my tag is essentially almost done. And now I'm going to use this, and I decide, do I want a little bit off? Do I want a really deep corner? For this size project, I use this particular corner, and all I did really was I grabbed a Starbucks card and I cut it to about where I thought it looked good. I didn't measure, I didn't do anything else. I just cut it to where I thought it looked good. So I'm going to line it up here. And I'm going to use this as my guide with my scissors, and I'm going to take off that corner. And then I'm going to flip it over. And the reason I flip it over is because if I moved it over and changed it, it wouldn't give me the exact same measurement. This gives me the exact same amount taken off of those corners to make those tags. Okay, and I'm going to do the same thing here, line it up and cut it. And that's it. There's my tag. Now, I said I would show you. I like to put a little paper loop in here just to make it look more like a tag. And this is the time that I do that. So I take a couple different circle punches. Now, I don't know if I said it on this one or another one. My son called during the first time I shot this video, so I don't remember what I said and what I didn't. But I keep a little baggie of these little itty bitty bits because I use them so often. But if you're doing it just for this project, get a scrap piece of card, and I use a little bit heavier weight for this. You can use whatever you've got. Whatever size hole I want. These two, and I couldn't even begin to tell you what sizes they are. Small and smaller. I punch a couple of those. I know I'm going to need one for the front and the back, so I punch a couple of those. And then I take a larger size, and this is what, I don't know, maybe 1/2 inch or something? I don't know. And I'm going to come in and I'm going to center it. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. And if it's not perfect, it's okay. They're not going to be right next to each other. They're going to be on the front and the back, and so it won't show so much. So you're going to need that circle punch again for another step, but for right now. And so then I just make myself, no, you know what? I'm not going to do that right now. I'm going to wait until I put the back on. Okay, so I'm going to put this aside, and I'm going to make sure that my front and my back are both 2.5, because remember I took a little bit of a divot off. So these are both 2.5 inches. Yeah, they match up pretty good. And I am going to make lines on the back. And I'm not going to do lines on the whole thing, but I'll show you how I do it so that if you want to do your own, if you don't have a line stamp, this will give you, and I'm going to zoom in just a little bit so you can see. I line this up on my grid, and I tape it down. And notice I haven't cut the notches on the back yet because I don't need to quite yet. I'm going to line it up so that it's straight. And then I'm going to use a fine line black marker. And I use the lines on my grid to make my lines on this back sheet. Now here I made some little bit wider lines because the gel pen, it's a little bit harder to write real small. But on this one, I made my lines a little bit closer because I had a lot that I wanted to say. So you can, the beauty of this is you can decide how deep or how thick you want your lines to be depending on your writing size. So I'm going to make this one a little bit bigger. I'm going to come up to the top and line up. I really hope my big old head is not in the way. And I'm going to just make lines. And I'm going to double the lines here. I have to lean over a little bit to make sure that I'm making these straight. Sorry. You kind of have to get on top of it basically to make sure that your lines are straight. And oh, darn it, I didn't hold my pen at the correct angle when I made this one, so I'll just come back in and do it again. Either that or maybe my pen is drying out, which is entirely possible. And you just do this all the way down. And I'm not going to bore you with making you see the whole thing. But that's essentially how you do it. You just go tape it down, line it up, and make your lines. There you go. Let me zoom back out. There we go. Okay. All right. So then I am going to glue this down on the back of my card. Now, you can see it overlaps here. I'm going to cut that before because the bottom fold, if I cut this afterwards, trim it, and accidentally cut this off, well, then I've just cut a hole in the bottom of my pocket. So I'm going to line this up right now, use a pencil, and that's where I want to trim it off. Again, I was just using a scrap of cardstock, so I didn't have an exact measurement. So here we go, and I'll come back in and finish these lines later. You certainly don't need to see that. Then this is where I'm going to put my paper clip on. Before I glue these two pieces together, oh, you know what? Shoot. Well, that's fine. You know what? That's fine. Because I was going to, you need to do all your lines before you put your paper clip on because your paper clip is going to lay over it. So I'm going to do one more line on this, and then I will put the paper clip on. No, you know what? I'm going to leave a blank spot right here so that the paper clip can go in that blank spot. And then I'll move it down and put a couple more lines for journaling. So I can have journaling above and below my tagline. And again, it's way easier if you hold your pen at a 90-degree angle and you have a newer pen rather than an older pen like I do here. But I'm going to finish that up. Okay, this pen really needs to be replaced. Sorry about that. And then I'll just call this good. That's enough. Okay. So, got my pen lines. Now what I'm going to do is take, you can use a circle punch, you can use your chomper, you can use whatever you want. But the key to this is if you are wanting your tag to clip on the right side of your page, like I did in my vacation planner, you're going to want to put your notch on your left. If you're wanting your tag to go on the left side of your book, you're going to put it on the right. So you do the opposite. Paper clip on notch and paper clipped on left means tag on right. Paper clip and notch on right means tag on the left. And because I did this one on the, I made my notch on the left, I'll do the next one with my notch on the right, and I'll leave that right there. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to put a little bit of a notch right here. And so I just take my circle punch and I use about half. Let's see, can you see that? I don't go all the way down, I go about half. So I want like I did with my notch, I just want a half a size. And it's going to be just like that. And then I'm going to use a larger paper clip simply because this is a bigger tag. I would use a smaller paper clip if it was a smaller tag. And then this is going to be the side that shows. This is going to be the side that's inside next to the back of the tag. I want my loop on my paper clip. I want this smaller loop to go in the back. And I want to make sure that the paper clip itself fits inside that little notch I just made. And the reason I do that is so that when I clip this in my book, you're not seeing the paper clip. That's the whole purpose for the notch. One, it holds it in place, and two, it means you're not seeing that little notch on the side here when you're clipping that in. So I've got my paper clip in place, and this is where you use your double-sided tape. And it doesn't matter at all if it's not perfectly straight, but this is me, and I want it straight. So I am going to use my purple tape to hold it down where I want it. Now remember, that's the side that's going to show. And then I'm going to flip it over, and I'm going to use my double-sided tape to hold this down. I'm going to do a couple of those just to make sure that it stays put. Now remember, this is the side that you're not going to see. It's going to be on the inside of your tag. So I've got that held in place. I've got my paper clip here. It's where I want it. The clip is inside that notch so that it doesn't show. And it's nice and flush right here. You don't feel it out of the way. Okay, then I grab this tag and I put it right on the back. I'm going to glue it to the back. And notice I have not cut off my tags yet, and there's a reason for that, because it is a lot easier to match it up and then trim it compared to what you've already got than it is to try to cut everything perfectly and then line it up. It's just, you can do it either way, but this just seems to be a little bit faster. More precise. It's not necessarily faster, it's just a little more precise. So I'm going to glue it up and match it up. And again, the beauty of the wet glue is it gives me a little bit of wiggle room. Tap it down. And now I would probably clamp this in place so that I know it dries. And I would go on and do something else. But for the sake of this, I'm just going to push it down. All right. So I've got the back of my card on. And then I'm going to use this as a guide and come in and snip off these corners. Now, you can see here, I've got a little tiny bit of a lip, and I'll come in and trim that down. And then they match up perfectly. Now this is ready. Here, I'll grab that same junk journal, or planner, vacation junk journal. And here we go. I'll show you. It clips right onto the side of it. Oh, and of course it's not in frame. Sorry about that. I've got to go back so far. There you go. Clips right onto the side. Just like that. Okay, just the last few things, and we will be done with this particular project. To put the tag, the circle piece in the top, I line it up on my grid again, and I go roughly in the center. It certainly doesn't have to be perfect, but I like things centered. So, and I'm going to cut through both pieces at once. And I'm going to use this circle punch. You can use a chomper if you've got a chomper. And I've got, so the front and the back, I've got the circle pieces cut at once. Okay, now I'm going to put a little bit of wet glue in that spot right around the edge so it stays down. And I'm going to take those tabs that I made and glue them down on the front. Glue it down on the front, and again glue it down on the back. Okay, and now I would ink all the edges and decorate it as I see fit. You can see with these, I put some ribbon at the top. You don't have to. You can staple ribbon, you can put string, you can put whatever you want. But that's all there is to it. That is day 13 of the 100-Day Project. Thank you for watching and enjoy a blessed day.